Chapter 2. The Devil's Due. The smoke had thinned to a ghostly haze, but the smell of sulfur still clung to the air like an accusation. Silver Fox headquarters, once a gleaming subterranean command center, humming with quiet efficiency, now looked like a war zone, wrapped in emergency lighting. Ceiling panels hung like broken ribs. Consoles flickered. Entire corridors were sealed behind blast doors that had warped under demonic heat. The attack by Kame and his Knights of the Fly had lasted only 17 minutes, but it nearly gutted the most secret organization on Earth. Now came the aftermath. Technicians in silver and black fatigues moved through the wreckage with portable scanners, marking recoverable tech with glowing tags. Something sizzled and popped in the distance. Another server overloading and dying. Apparent engineers tried to haul out a melted chunk of what had once been an astral communications hub, muttering curses under their breath. "Careful with that," warned Director Leinster Fox, stepping around a crater of blackened floor plates. He was tall, silver-haired, and visibly exhausted. "Anything touched by Kame's blade may still be cursed. Tag it for quarantine." The technicians nodded. The director kept moving. Everywhere he walked, employees looked up, some with relief, others with fear. Their workplace had been magic-proof, monster-proof, infiltration-proof, until it wasn't. Now they felt exposed, as if hell itself had pointed a spotlight at them. And it had. Their enemies now knew exactly where Silver Fox lived. "What's next?" Fox sighs loudly. "Vampires, werewolves, Godzilla. Couldn't be worse than what we've already been through," Captain of Kit Team, Kenji Tanaka says. Kit Team, led by Captain Kenji Tanaka, had arrived at HQ not long after the battle with Kame had ended. They had wrapped their mission ahead of schedule and responded immediately when the emergency beacon from HQ went out. They were the first unit on site during the aftermath, stepping into the smoke, ash, and ruin, while Red Team was still dragging survivors out of collapsed corridors. Kit Team moved fast and without hesitation. Tanaka's people were scouts, infiltration specialists, and rapid response operators trained for chaos and adaptable under pressure. They distributed medical aid, secured unstable sections of the facility, and helped erect temporary barriers where demonic fire had melted structural supports. Captain Tanaka himself went straight to Director Fox the moment he had arrived, offering his team for whatever was needed. Throughout the cleanup, Kit Team could be seen assisting engineers in salvaging damaged communications equipment, using their stealth tech to scout collapsed tunnels for survivors, setting perimeter trip fields in case any remaining forces returned, escorting wounded personnel from compromised sections of the HQ, and helping Red Team maintain defensive positions during the cleanup process. Though not as combat-oriented as Red Team, Kit Team brought a quick, precise efficiency that kept more of HQ from collapsing entirely. They never left the site during the cleanup effort, and remained ready for rapid deployment at Fox's command. "A devil's gotta be stronger than a vampire by 3-4 times?" Kenji continues. "It varies," Mulder speaks up. "But a vampire noble, the really old and powerful ones, are several times stronger than any of the devils that attacked us. I sure wouldn't want one of them to be our next visitor." Kenji's number 2, Marcus Brick Johnson, former SWAT, shrugs. "Whatever wants to try and come through these doors uninvited is gonna be real sorry." "Captain, Sounds like your team is itching for combat. Do I need to find something to get them out of the house for the afternoon? Kenji grins, folding his arms. I have a few ideas in mind. Down in the central atrium, now half collapsed, a fire team in battered red armor worked with disciplined focus. Captain Gator Rigsby stood at the center. Red Team had been the only unit at HQ when Kame struck, with Kit Team showing up a few hours later. The other 9 teams, Finnick, Arctic, Sand, Gray, Swift, Tail, Cape, Corsac, and Maned Wolf, were scattered across the planet on operations and unreachable until exfil. A Black Ops team, Shadow Fox, was also away on an off-the-record mission. None of them knew the full extent of what had happened at HQ yet. Captain, called out Red Team's medic, Paulo Santos Magales, former BOPE, emerging from a pile of shattered concrete. Found another survivor from systems analysis. Alive, but burned bad. Gator jogged over, kneeling beside the injured analyst as medics swarmed. The young woman's badge was half melted, her uniform scorched. Still, she tried to salute him. Easy, he said, gently pushing her hand back down. You did good. You're safe now. Her voice was hoarse. Sir, the devils knew our layout. They didn't hesitate. They went straight for the command center. I know, he said quietly. We're looking into that. But inside, the fear gnawed at him. Someone had given Kame the blueprints, or someone had broken under interrogation. Somewhere out there, a leak was breathing. Red Team knew it. Director Fox knew it. And that meant HQ was no longer a sanctuary, it was a liability. In what remained of the command center, half of it turned into a pit of molten steel. Leinster Fox stood in front of a cracked terminal, one that had formerly displayed digital maps and navigation. The normally cool, calculated director now had a tremor in his hands. All primary servers are offline, reported the lead data officer. We're down to emergency backups. 60% of classified archives survived intact. Then that means 40% were compromised, Fox repeated. Damn it. Worse, another officer said. 20% was exfiltrated by Delvanay energy signatures. We think Kame pulled data directly to another location. Fox closed his eyes. Kame hadn't just attacked. He had stolen something. What exactly did he take? Everything we wanted to keep classified, he says. Team compositions, including the names and addresses of their next of kin. Additionally, every contact we have in the government, US and abroad, is now outed to Kane's superiors. Gator arrived, still streaked with ash. The angelic blade Cascavell clipped to his belt. Director, we've secured the last of the wounded. Structural integrity teams are on standby. Fox looked at him with a gravity that surpassed exhaustion. Captain Rigsby, we cannot maintain operations here. Kame exposed us. I know, Gator said. This place is done. Fox nodded grimly. We'll relocate. Burn what's left. Pack up what we can. Erase every trace. But that isn't the worst of it. You and your men need to get your families somewhere safe. can offer them protection, but it's understandable if that is no longer a comfort. We're in this together, and we'll circle the wagons. I have no doubt in the abilities of any of these men and women. But until the other teams return, you've got us, Gator finished. And Red's with you all the way. For a moment, the director's expression softened, then hardened again. Captain, we need to determine one thing above all. How exactly did they find us? Gator met his gaze steadily. We'll find your rat, Director, and when we do, he tapped the bandage on his cheek, a wound courtesy of Kane himself. We'll finish what we started. If only we had been here, Kenji whispers, balling his fists in anger. We could have prevented so many senseless deaths. This wasn't a situation where throwing more bodies at it could have changed much, Mulder says. Kane was a Knight of the Fly. They're like the special forces of the Devils, and whoever sent him out on this mission is likely even higher ranked in their order. They aren't so dissimilar from us. That's actually the first good news I've heard in a while, Gator says. The others are surprised. How so? Fox asks. If Kame is my peer, then the rest of the Order of the Fly are your peers. Gator begins to smile. Am I right? Fox narrows his eyes. I don't think I like what you're insinuating. Gator laughs. It's just a joke. As alarms flickered in broken hallways and smoke curled up from ruined machinery, Silver Fox personnel worked through the wreckage with grim determination. They patched, salvaged, burned, and sealed. People whispered, some cried, some prayed, but they all kept working. Corsac team arrived in a blur of headlights and thudding rotor wash, their convoy grinding to a halt at the end of the ruined access tunnel. The armored SUVs looked scorched and half-patched from whatever they'd just crawled out of, but the Fox emblem on the doors was unmistakable. The moment the engines cut, the doors flew open and soldiers spilled out, weapons already up, eyes wide with disbelief. Captain Mara Volkov, short, wiry, and as sharp as broken glass. She was former Russian SOPR. She stared at the collapsed entrance, as if expecting Lucifer himself to jump out of the smoke. Holy hell, she breathed. They weren't exaggerating. No one answered. The team just stood there a moment, taking in the twisted steel and blackened stone, where the reinforced blast doors had once been. Mara slung her carbine and motioned forward. Mask on. Move. They descended the slope into the access tunnel, boots crunching over rubble and shards of shattered demonic carapace. The wall still radiated a faint heat that made the hair on their arms stand. As they passed a melted stretch of conduit, Corsac's explosives expert, Hans-Dieter Schmidt, former German at GSG-9, whistled under his breath. What did this? He asks. Devils, Mara replied, touching several of the dark scorch marks on the walls and ground. She waves one of her men forward with a thermal scanner. When they reached the inner courtyard, a pair of red team soldiers stepped out from behind makeshift barricades. Their armor was soot-stained, their visors cracked, their red fox patches cut and burned, but they stood straight. Corsac, one of them said, voice rough with exhaustion. Captain Rigsby and Director Fox are in the command center. Or what's left of it. Mara nodded, then hesitated. Casualties? The red soldier's silence was answer enough. He gestured them through. Inside, the damage was worse. The air was thick with smoke and the sharp tang of extinguished hellfire. Emergency lights flickered in wounded pulses, casting long, jagged shadows across the devastation. Corsac moved as a unit, surveying each corner with growing horror. The mural of the 9 Fox banners that had once hung proudly across the atrium wall now lay half buried in debris. The cloth singed to ash at the edges. Mara knelt to touch the charred remains of the Arctic Team banner. They're still out there. They don't even know yet. None of them do, someone murmured behind her. A familiar voice cut through the murmur. Corsac, over here. Gator Rigsby strode toward them through a cloud of dust, helmet dangling from his fingers, face streaked with grime and dried blood. He looked like he'd been awake for 3 days and angry the whole time. Mara stood and met him halfway. Rigsby, she said. We came as fast as we could. Roads were hell. No, hell was here, Gator replied. His voice rasped like gravel. We're still counting the losses. Mara glanced at the wreckage around them. How bad? Bad enough that HQ's finished, he said. We'll salvage what we can. Everything else burns before another devil looks at it. Behind him, teams of engineers and medics sifted through debris, tagging equipment, sealing bodies, cutting open collapsed corridors. The side put a hard edge in Mara's throat. Corsac had seen battlefields before, but this was their home. Gator looked them over, taking in their exhausted faces, their travel-dusted armor. Director Fox is deeper inside. He'll want your mission report, but it can wait. Right now, we need hands. What do you need? Mara asked. He pointed through the cracked remains of the command center. Came tore through the server vaults. There's more damage than we thought. We've got partial recovery, but we're locked out of most systems. And there's something else. Something he took. Mara's brows pulled tight. Took? Our names, the names of our families, our addresses, our contacts. Everything. Where did they transmit it to? We don't know where yet, but we're gonna find out. He jerked his head toward the corridor. Come on, Fox will brief you further. As they followed Gator, the weight of the HQ's destruction settled over Corsac like a physical thing. Soldiers they knew nodded to them, hollow-eyed but determined. Techs stepped aside with armfuls of cracked hardware. Medics hurried past with stretchers, faces set in grim lines. Mara lowered her voice as they walked. If Kame found us once, he's dead, Gator said sharply. I made sure of that. But his people know he fell. They'll come looking. And the other teams? We'll reach them as soon as comms stabilize. We were only able to reach you on a local channel because you were only a few hours out. He clenched his jaw. Until then, we salvage what's left. They entered the shattered command center where Director Leinster Fox stood amid broken screens and hovering shards of light from damaged holoprojectors. His coat was torn, his face drawn, but his eyes were razor sharp as they lifted to greet Corsac team. Fox exhaled slowly. The sound was thin. Corsac, welcome home. I only wish home had survived long enough to welcome you properly. She nodded, but didn't salute. There was no place for ceremony here. We're here, Director. Just tell us where you need us. Before any of them could respond, a warning klaxon began to pulse from a damaged console. Weak but insistent. An alert trying to force its way through the ruined systems. Gator spun toward it. What now? One of the surviving techs bent over the cracked display. Incoming transmission. It's fragmented. Looks like it's from main wolf team. Put it through, Fox ordered. But the tech's expression tightened. I can't, sir. It's not a voice transmission. It's a distress beacon. The room went still. Gator's fist clenched until his knuckles went white. Mara felt her pulse spike as she stepped closer to the flickering screen. What happened to them? She asked. No one answered. The beacon continued pulsing, weak and broken, echoing through the ruined command center like a heartbeat, fading into darkness. The first distress beacon from main wolf team hadn't even finished its broken pulse before another one began chiming, sharper, more frantic. Then a third, a fourth. Their tones, each assigned to a different team or outpost, layered over one another in a rising, discordant chorus that made every head in the ruined command center snap up. What? One tech murmured, fingers flying over a half-melted console. More beacons went off, distant ones, foreign ones that should only ever trigger if the world was cracking open. Gator strode toward the junction of displays, jaw set. Report! I can't isolate them, the tech stammered, wrestling with the corrupted interface. They're coming from everywhere. Some from field teams, some from safe houses, some from assets that aren't even active. Another beacon shrieked, and another, and another. Mara felt the back of her neck prickle as a cold understanding began to settle in. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a wave. It's Hell's follow-up, she whispered. This has to be part of a continuing attack. Director Fox didn't speak. His eyes were fixed on the storm of lights, each one representing a team member, an ally, a facility, a mission, all screaming for help at once. They're cascading, communications officer said, voice breaking. Global onset. Paranormal signatures off the charts. Can you get me satellite comms yet? Fox demanded. Negative ionization spike. Something's interfering with atmospheric bandwidth. What about ground line backups? Melted, all of them. Fox swore under his breath. Something old and vicious. Just then a shout came from the far side of the room. I've got something, yelled a young tech, hunched over a battered, soot-stained device. I've got a signal. Analog only. Gator blinked. What signal? The tech held up a portable FM radio, its casing cracked, antenna bent. Scotch tape on its back to hold the batteries in. Local broadcast channel, weak, but someone's talking out there. Put it on speaker, Fox ordered. The tech twisted the dial carefully. Static washed over the command center. A white noise that somehow made the destruction feel deeper. Then a voice began to break through. Shaky, breathless, not meant to be heard by soldiers in the fallen headquarters. We're interrupting regular programming. Reports. Multiple reports coming from southern Alabama. The radio crackled violently and resolved. Yes, a dragon. Eyewitnesses claim a creature of enormous size moving west over Mobile
and Baldwin counties. Fire visible from miles away. Military jets scrambled, unsure if...
The signal cut to static again. Someone in Corsac swore under their breath. The tech adjusted the dial, and the voice snapped back in, louder, panicked.
State police are urging civilians to take cover indoors. Repeat, take cover indoors. There are also unconfirmed videos of what appear to be reanimated bodies attacking emergency responders in Montgomery and Dothan. Hospitals overwhelmed. National Guard being mobilized.
Static swallowed the rest. The room went deathly still. Mara felt her stomach drop. Reanimated? Like undead? Could be Hill's infantry, Gator muttered grimly. Damn souls being sent back as foot soldiers. Another distress beacon shrieked, high, piercing. Then 3 more. The sound was a cascade of alarms signaling a world cracking open. One of Corsac's soldiers stepped up beside Mara, face pale. Captain, those beacons, they're not all ours. Some are from allied organizations. Even some government black sites. Everyone's getting hit. Director Fox pressed both hands onto the cracked holotable, the faint blue projections jittering beneath his fingers. It's a coordinated strike, he said. While we were busy defending headquarters, hell was unleashed on the rest of the world. Gator looked at the broken radio, the pulsing distress beacons, the ruined HQ around them. What do we do, Director? He asked. Fox straightened slowly. His face was exhausted, haunted, but his eyes were sharp again. We rally what remains, he said. We recover our teams. We reestablish a command center somewhere else, somewhere that hell can't trace. He turned off the flickering displays. And we stop whatever came set in motion. As if in cruel agreement, the radio crackled one last time. A terrified broadcaster whispered through the static.
If anyone out there can hear this, please, someone, anyone, help.
The signal died. Mara felt every eye in the room turn toward Director Fox and Gator, waiting. Outside the ruined command center, another beacon began to wail. Then another, and another. Another tech stumbled into the command center, clutching a datapad, held together by desperation and duct tape. Director, Captain, field contact from San Francisco finally got through. Burst transmitted before the local grid collapsed. Fox snapped his fingers. Patch it through. The tech placed the datapad on a surviving table and the rough audio played. Someone whispering into a recorder, breath fast, wind roaring behind them. This is Contact Sparrow. Repeat, Contact Sparrow. I don't know how long the line will hold. San Francisco just went dark. The sky tore open for a minute, then sealed itself shut. Listen, this is important. Kame wasn't acting alone. Gator went still. The voice continued, shaky but determined. Gathered intel confirms Kame received his marching orders from... Crash in the background. The sound of something massive landing on pavement. Sparrow cursed under his breath. From the Cerberus organization. Yeah, that's Cerberus. The corporate front. But listen, they're not human run. Their board, their executives, they're all devils. High ranking. Some older than the countries that they operate in. Someone in Corsac swore softly. Sparrow kept going, words stumbling now. We tracked several devils leaving Cerberus Tower. They moved openly, like they didn't care who saw. Our team tailed them to the docks. Pier 47. They boarded a large unmarked freighter, a military retrofit, no responder, no paperwork, destination unknown. We got partial visuals before they cut the lights. Gator leaned closer, jaw tightening. Sparrow's voice dropped to a rasp. Whatever's on that freighter, they guarded it like the crown jewels of hell. We tried to follow from the shore, but then... A scream. Gunfire. The mic hit concrete. I have to move. Something's hunting. We... Try... The recording ended. Mara exhaled slowly. Cerberus. That explains how Kame had our layout. They've been pretending to be a multinational logistics corp for decades. They are a logistics corp, Gator said bitterly. They just move things between realms. Fox pinched the bridge of his nose. Devils on a freighter. Meaning they're moving something important. Or someone. They didn't bother masking their presence. That's arrogance or confidence, but we're too crippled to respond. Gator stepped back from the table, pacing once, twice, each stride sharp and angry. We go after Cerberus, he said. Cut off the head. You take out the board, you hobble their operations. Maybe stop whatever global catastrophe they're lining up. Or, Mara countered, we infiltrate the freighter, track where they're going, learn what they're moving. Knowledge is leverage, and we need leverage more than revenge. It's not revenge, Gator snapped. It's just ending the people responsible. But if we follow that freighter, Mara pressed, we learn their plan. We find out whether Kame was just one piece of something bigger. Fox watched the two, studying the argument like a chessboard. More distress beacons wailed. The world continued burning outside their ruined bunker. Gator stopped pacing, staring at the cracked floor. We can't do both, he said quietly. Not with HQ crippled. Not with our team scattered. We choose wrong, we lose everything. Mara folded her arms. I say we follow the freighter. We need intel more than we need blood. Director Fox finally spoke, tone low and steady. Captain Rigsby, what does your gut say? Gator looked at him. His fingers curled into a fist at his side. I want to go after Cerberus, he admitted. Kick down their doors. Make them pay for every life we lost today. He turned, eyes narrowing at the dimming data pad. But, if I think like a soldier, if I think like someone who wants to win, instead of someone who wants payback, a long, quiet breath, we go after the freighter. Fox nodded once. Then that's our next move. Jockey Island! Mulder shouts from across the room at his desk. That's gotta be where the ship is headed. Wait, Gator says. Isn't that where the tournament was being held? The one that was a monster open invitational. Fox nods. We don't have any clear photos of the island to pinpoint its location, but we do have it narrowed down to a turbulent area of the Pacific Southeast of Japan. How'd you get that far? Gator asks. I thought the island was supposed to be invisible from all forms of sight or detection. Nobody can reach it by ship or air, from what I've heard. The Paranormal Investigation Agency was able to get 3 assets onto a ship that had already received special magical clearance to make landfall. One of my contacts in the agency relayed that it was a successful infiltration. Well, it's probably too late for us to crash that party, Gator says. Even if we were to leave right now, it'd take us days to get there. Fox smiles. You underestimate my connections, Rigsby. Do you want on that ship, or do you plan on knocking on Cerberus's front door instead? I would love nothing more right now than to go watch that fucking tournament. The ruined command center trembled again as another distant explosion rattled the substructure, something collapsing deeper in the base. Dust drifted down from the cracked ceiling like gray snow. Director Fox ignored it. His attention was fixed on a single name on his cracked tablet, the image beside it flickering weakly but still intact. "Get me Sable Rowan," he said. A nearby officer blinked. "Sir, Rowan? She's still in isolation after the astral backlash last time. She isn't cleared." "She's the only mage left on site," Fox snapped. "Find her, now." The officer sprinted down the corridor. Gator exchanged a look with Mara. "Rowan? I thought she fell in the line of duty." "She was put out of commission, but she's not dead," Mara murmured. "If Fox is calling her up, we're desperate. She can't move well enough for combat anymore." Minutes passed, long enough for the tension in the room to knot tighter. Technicians worked under the flicker of emergency lights, distress beacons still warbling in the background like dying birds. Gator paced near the broken holotable, the weight of the decision he'd made, tracking the freighter settling on him like an invisible armor plate. At last, footsteps approached, light, uneven. Sable Rowan stepped into the room. She looked like someone who had clawed her way back from a place humans weren't meant to walk. Her black coat hung loosely on her thin frame, arcane burns still faintly tracing pale lines across her throat. Her hair was pinned back hastily, and a charm of obsidian teeth rattled faintly at her belt with each step. But her eyes, glowing with a soft, unsettling violet, were steady, very steady. "Director," she said, voice quiet but crisp. "You need a circle?" Fox nodded. "A large one, multi-point, stable enough to carry a fully armed fire team." Rowan blinked once, slowly. "That would require anchors, and power we do not currently possess." "We'll supply what's needed," Fox said. "Just tell me what you need, and you'll have it." Rowan's gaze flicked to him, reading more than he wanted to share. Reading the exhaustion, the anger, the fear simmering beneath his armor. "You're planning an insertion," she said softly, not a question. Fox didn't answer. He didn't need to. Rowan surveyed the wreckage of the command center. Boots crunching over shattered glass and fallen sigils burned onto the floor by Kame's blade. The room was a graveyard of dead tech and broken magic barely fit for normal operations, much less sorcery. She exhaled, rolling up her sleeves. "Clear me space," she said. Technicians scrambled aside, Gator and Mara dragging debris away, making room in the largest uncollapsed section of the floor. Emergency lanterns were pulled over, bathing the area in a harsh artificial glow. Slowly, Rowan knelt. From her belt she drew a piece of chalk. Not ordinary chalk, but a fat stick of something black as starless void, shimmering faintly with trapped motes of light. Abyssal chalk. Fox had seen it only once before. She pressed it to the floor, and the moment it touched the concrete, the temperature dipped several degrees. Lines began to unfurl beneath her hand, circles within circles, geometric shapes interlocked with older, stranger script, symbols that writhed faintly at the edges of vision. The smell of ozone filled the air. Thin lines of violet pulsed through the forming pattern like veins pulsating. Rowan's voice drifted softly as she worked, chanting in a tongue that predated humanity's oldest memories. The command center seemed to hold its breath. Fox stood beside her, arms clasped behind his back, eyes sharp and haunted. Gator watched from a few feet away, chest tight, as every stroke of chalk was another reminder that they were marching toward a battle none of them were prepared for. Rowan did not pause. She did not hesitate. She did not falter. "We'll need an anchor point," Rowan said as she continued to work. "If not, your team could end up stuck inside the walls of the target reception, and it would be the Philadelphia experiment all over again. I have someone in mind that would be just the right person to help us." Fox smiles, relieved that something is finally going their way. "You have another mage on the payroll?" Gator asks, confused. But at this point, he didn't even know Rowan had any training beyond simple incantations. Becoming injured and being taken off the board must have given her a lot of free time to read and study up. Fox begins to chuckle. "She's my magical liaison to the United States Navy. I believe she is one of the only 3 in action currently." "You've really expanded since my first run with this organization," Gator says, impressed. "Back then, we barely even knew magic existed. We were pretty bare bones back in those days. We only had this one base and only 4 teams then. Most agencies refused to even acknowledge our existence. It is thanks in part to the great successes of your era that we were able to build enough of a reputation that nearly every government in the world now cooperates with our teams." Rowan drew the final outer ring, 6 feet across, glowing faintly beneath her fingers. Then she lifted her head, sweat beading on her brow, violet eyes dimmed but steady. "It's begun," she whispered. "But the circle is only the skeleton. We still need to feed it." She touched the center with 2 fingers. "And once we do, then it will open." Royce's eyes widened with unease. "What does it eat?" Rowan turns to look directly at the soldier. "Like most things in this world, blood is the life." Gator and Mara exchanged a glance, one that held too many memories of missions involving blood magic, and none of them were pleasant. The light from the half-ruined lanterns flickered across the walls, throwing moving shadows that made the drawn circle look alive. Royce swallowed hard. "Blood. How much?" Rowan slowly rose to her feet, wiping the abyssal chalk residue across her black coat. Her eyes were calmer now, resigned to what needed to happen. "Enough to bind the anchor point to a location thousands of miles away. Enough to tear open space for a squad in full gear." Fox stepped forward, his voice a careful, controlled monotone. "Will it require a sacrifice?" "No," Rowan said at once. "Blood, not life. A willing offering is stable enough. More than enough." She glanced at their room, her gaze lingering on the faces of Red Team, exhausted, battered, bruised, but unbroken. "Just 6 of you, a small amount each. That should be sufficient." Royce exhaled with visible relief. "All right, that we can do." Rowan gestured to the secondary circle she had smeared into existence, beside the main one, smaller, filled with geometric receptacles shaped like bowls. "Into these, the blood becomes the spark. The runes will take it from there." Mara stepped forward without hesitation, pulling off her glove. "Let's get it done. Time's ticking." One by one, Red Team stepped up. Rowan sterilized their arms with a glowing touch of her fingers, painful but clean, then collected the blood in the runic recesses. The chalk symbols began to pulse faintly, twitching like breathing lungs. Royce grimaced as Rowan guided his hand over the basin. Feels like the circle is pulling. It is, Rowan murmured. It knows what's coming. Gator was last. Rowan offered him the blade, a thin ritual razor of silver etched with binding runes. Captain. He slid his palm without hesitation, blood pattering into the final recess. The moment the first drop hit, the entire circle blazed in a low, deep, violet hum rising beneath the floor like something ancient waking from sleep. Rowan stepped back, eyes reflecting the glow. The skeleton is fed, she said softly. Now, we wait for the connection. Fox tapped his comm. Bring the thaumaturgical frequency online. Patch us through to the Strom Thurmond. One of the surviving comm techs rushed to a jury-rigged console, wires sparkling as he slammed a connector back into place. Attempting, sir. Our contact about the Thurmond is already broadcasting the harmonic thread. We just need to complete the magical circuit on our end. Rowan closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself, then lifted her hands above the glowing circle. Link us, she said. The tech flipped the switch. A hollow thrum rippled across the command center as an astral frequency hit the circle, vibrating its symbols. A distorted voice came over the comm, strained, echoing through layers of magic. Sable Rowan. This is Lieutenant Arya Ning, aboard the USS Strom Thurmond. We have you. We're in position. Rowan's lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. Arya, good. We haven't done a co-cast since the Kabul Rift. And that one nearly killed you, Arya remarked dryly. And yet here I am. The floor shook again as the runes brightened. The two circles, one here in the ruins of Silver Fox HQ, the other one somewhere on the steel deck of a U.S. Navy destroyer gliding along the dark waters off Japan, began to resonate in synchrony. This is our window, Fox said. The Thurmond is the closest vessel able to intercept the freighter. We couldn't ask for better luck in this, so we can't squander this opportunity. If we miss this harmonic, how long will we have to wait before being able to try again? Mara asks. At least another 24 to 48 hours, Rowan murmured. And those devils will likely already be at Jockey Island. She placed both palms into the circle's center. The air compressed. The lights dimmed. The runes ignited into a full violet blaze. Rowan inhaled once, sharply. Beginning incantation, she pauses, looking up as if having forgotten some key detail. Have any of you been transported via a spell before? Gator recalls the Hashmalin Watcher Yazda named Hoyles, saving him from Hui's avatar attack back in Florida. Yeah, I have. Once. Rowan nods. Well, I still recommend you all take something for motion sickness before we do this. Otherwise, you'll be puking your guts out when you arrive. I think from everything we've been through, one silly little spell isn't going to break us, Royce says, grinning cockily. Gator turns to Captain Mara. Are you coming after us once the second window opens? Mara shakes her head. I think me and my team are needed more here. Until the other teams report in, will be all that's left to defend this facility from further devil attacks. Gator then turns to Leinster. You get fucking protective details on our families immediately. If anything happens to my wife or kids, I'm personally holding your ass responsible, along with those devil bastards. I completely understand, Fox says. Any operatives not assigned to critical roles will be redistributed into protective details. The runes swelled from violet to a furious white-blue, shadows whipping away from the circle as if afraid to touch it. The air grew denser, thicker, like the room was sinking underwater. Even the hum of machinery seemed to hush. Rowan braced herself, fingers splayed in the heart of the glowing sigil. Her voice, steady but threaded through strain, rose above the mounting vibration. "Stay inside the boundary lines once it opens," she warned. "If you step out mid-transition, you'll rematerialize off-target or in pieces." Royce's cocky grin faltered. "Good to know." Rowan didn't look up again. She fixed her focus on the circle, on the fracture point forming in its center. Light bending, reality rippling like hot oil. "Beginning incantation," she repeated. Her voice deepened as she spoke the first guttural symbols, her violet glowing eyes flaring open. "Harel thu'un ma'kara vesh taluni rakara. By blood given, by path torn, open the rift and carry them forward." The circle answered like a living theme, lines brightening, pulsing, warping into three-dimensional spirals of light. The concrete floor beneath it trembled as if something beneath the building strained to break free. Over the comm, Lieutenant Arianing's voice echoed with similar cadence, casting the twin spell aboard the Strom Thurman. "Keshet ha darum, Keshet ha derike. Bind the anchor across the world's skin. Elohim Tishmor, let the door burn open." The two voices, separated by thousands of miles of ocean and sky, wove together into a single harmonic chord. The effect was instantaneous. Reality cracked. A thin line of nothing split open at the center of the circle, expanding outward like a pupil dilating. The edges shimmered, bending inward like curled metal. The interior wasn't darkness. It was everything and nothing. Swirling colors without names, depth without perspective. The sound was indescribable. A high-pitched scream layered over a deep subsonic roar, mixed with whispers that seemed too close, too personal. Even hardened soldiers stepped back instinctively. Gator grit his teeth. "Everyone form up. Once it stabilizes, we jump." Rowan strained, sweat trickling down her neck as the rift yawned wider. Her voice wavered but didn't break as she forced out the final line. "Tal Orath Shah Vira." The circle detonated in a column of vertical light. Red team vanished. Not all at once. Each soldier stretched impossibly long, flattened into silhouettes of static and color, pulled like shadows being torn away from their bodies. Their senses twisted, sound becoming taste, siphon into pressure, gravity flickering in and out like a strobe. Royce screamed, maybe just his body thought it screamed. Sound lost meaning inside of the rift. Gator felt colors burn across his vision. He smelled electricity, heard bone grinding like gears. His heartbeat stuttered, then multiplied, then slowed, then disappeared entirely. For a moment, half second or half eternity, we were nowhere. Then there was impact. The world slammed back into place with brutal force. Gator hit the metal first, hands skidding across the wet deck. Salty wind slapped him in the face. The distant sound of roaring engines cut through the ringing in his ears. Floodlights burned white shapes into his vision. His stomach heaved violently. Someone vomited, maybe Royce. Someone else cursed, definitely Royce. The sensation of air, real, cold ocean air, felt like knives across newly reformed skin. A klaxon blared overhead. "What the hell?" a sailor shouted, scrambling backward as red teeth materialized in a burst of crackling violet. But above the shouting, above the alarms, and above the chaos of re-entry, a calm voice rose from the calm clip to Gator's vest. "This is Lieutenant Ariane," she said. "Welcome aboard the USS Strom Thurmond, Silver Fox." Gator rolled to his knees, coughing hard, blinking the last of the rift's distortion from his eyes. He looked up. He was on a Navy destroyer. The night sea crashed around them, and somewhere under that moonless horizon, the freighter full of devils was running. "It hurts," Royce whispers, weakly, tears in his eyes. He continues to dry heave, nothing left in his stomach to throw up. "Pull it together, soldier," Gator says. "We have a good old-fashioned ship raid to plan." Even as another beacon shrieked, even as the radio sputtered with distant screams, even as HQ continued collapsing around them, Fox felt something resolve in his chest. Kame had been the opening strike. Cerberus was the architect. And what lay on that freighter was the next domino in a chain the world wasn't ready for. They were already in place long before Silver Fox pieced together what had happened. While HQ burned and distress beacons screamed across the globe, the Knights of the Fly, Gehenna's special forces, had spread their lesser servants across the mortal world, like rot through old wood. These were not generals or high devils like Kame. These were the things bred for patience, for shadow work, for waiting, and for killing. In a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, a creature wearing the skin of a mailman leaned against a fence post, sunglasses reflecting the neat rows of houses. It stood too still, too straight, its smile stretched a touch too wide. Under the stolen uniform, its body buzzed softly, like a swarm trapped inside a sack of flesh. The family inside, 2 parents and 3 children, laughed as they prepared dinner. They had no idea that one of their own, the eldest son, now serving in Silver Fox's Arctic team, had put them on a list. Its fingers twitched every time it imagined the signal coming. In a hospital in Sao Paulo, a nurse rolled a cart through the quiet nighttime ward. No one noticed that she never blinked. No one questioned the way monitors glitched when she walked past. Her shift change never came. She did not breathe. She paused outside room 314, where an elderly man lay sleeping, father of a Corsac team scout. She stood in the doorway, head tilting too far to one side as if smelling him. The fly crawled from her left eye and disappeared down her cheek. The nurse smiled. The smile was wrong. In rural Montana, a pickup truck sat half buried in snow by the edge of a forest. The driver appeared to be a bearded hunter, dozing at the wheel, but inside his coat, beneath the flannel and wool, his skin shimmered with an oily blue sheen. He had followed the family in this cabin all day, picked them up when they returned from town, watched them unload groceries, watched the young mother tuck her daughter into bed. Every so often, the hunter's head snapped towards the trees, nostrils flaring, waiting for a whisper across realms, waiting for the order. He didn't plan to use the rifle in the back seat. He preferred his hands. In London, a businessman in a spotless black suit sat on a park bench, umbrella propped beside him. People passed by without glancing twice. They never noticed the faint twitching beneath his collar, or the way insects crawled under his skin like moving tattoos. His briefcase contained nothing but a photograph of the 2 brothers he was assigned to kill, sons of a Grey Team sharpshooter. He checked his watch every few minutes, not because he cared about time, but because the gesture helped him blend in. He imagined the moment the watch would buzz, with a single infernal pulse. He imagined the blood. In a narrow alley behind a convenience store in Azerbaijan, something crouched on the wall like a spider. Its limbs were jointed wrong. It wore no disguise, as there was no need. No one ever looked up. Beneath it, a woman locked the shop for the night, humming as she zipped her coat. She carried a picture of her daughter, Sand Team's demolitions expert. The creature tracked her every step with dozens of unblinking insect black eyes. Its mandibles clicked softly, tasting the cold air for the signal. It almost wished its masters would hurry. Across continents and oceans, across homes and workplaces, across cities already trembling from rising supernatural chaos, the minions of the Knights of the Fly waited in silence. They did not speak, they did not sleep, they lived only to obey. And when the order finally came, when the board members of Cerberus gave the word, the killing would begin. The devils had already struck Silver Fox's heart. Now they waited to strike their families. The freighter cut through the Pacific beneath a moon smothered by cloud. Its lights dimmed to thin slits across the hull. No name, no registry, no transponder. Just a shadow on the water, gliding steadily toward a point no human map acknowledged. Below deck, in the heat-soaked steel corridors that smelled of engine oil and old blood, the devils of Cerberus moved with casual confidence. Their claws clicked softly across the metal floor when they forgot to hide them. Their eyes burned behind glamored faces. They spoke in low voices, their infernal language thrumming like distant thunder. They were not worried about pursuit. They had a destination, a schedule, a purpose. Jockey Island, a place erased from mortal knowledge centuries ago. A place where concealment magic, old, deep, and woven by hands neither fully holy or infernal, hid it completely from angelic gaze. This was why Cerberus had chosen it. It was the perfect staging ground. It was the perfect blind spot. It was the perfect birthplace for hell on earth. In the captain's cabin, one of the devils snapped shut a ledger of names. Thick, heavy, filled with human identities and potential vessels. Humans with the rare grotesque compatibility for demonic inhabitation. Wills strong enough to hold the spirit. Moral boundaries loose enough to fracture. Souls bent in just the right direction. Over 1,000 names had already been collected on Jockey Island. They had already been prepared, and were in a deep magical slumber. The devil, named Nethra, murmured in satisfaction. Yazata has done well. In the Order of the Fly, Nethra was a scribe that was looked down upon as weak by all of the combat-focused knights. Another devil, taller, built more for combat, let out a dry laugh. He was Vorkath the Black Harrow, a mid-tier knight of the Fly. Gadriel always does well. He was obedient back before the fall. Now that he's unchained, his grin showed too many teeth. He's downright industrious. A third devil, Keshron, hissed beneath his breath. Cedrion should be the one overseeing this. Gadriel is a child compared to him. Cedrion, Vorkath sneered, is busy organizing his pet project. Monsters tearing each other apart for sport. He barely cares about the vessel program. And that is why it succeeds, Nethra said simply. Cedrion's distraction keeps Anshar's eyes off us, and Gadriel ensures every vessel is properly broken in before we collect them. A hush fell over the room as they considered the implications. 1,000 humans, 1,000 perfect hosts. each destined to carry a devil from Gehenna to earth. Not lesser demons or foot soldiers, but knights of the fly, each and every one of them as strong or stronger than came, and no one, be they angel, watcher, human or mage, could see it happening, not beneath the magical storms encircling Jockey Island. Vorkath placed a clawed finger on the map spread across the table. The island was only a dark smear, a conceptual space more than a location. When we arrive, Gadriel would deliver the vessels to us. The transfer must be completed before sunrise. He's only able to open up a brief window for our ship to safely breach the storms. After that, the magic protecting the island strengthens once more. And if anyone interferes, Nethra murmured. A ripple of amusement moved through the room. This island hosts the tournament, Vorkath replied. I wonder if it's too late for any of us to enter as well. You know as well as I do that is not our department, Nethra said. If any of us were interfering with Gimorka, Gualichu, Dirk Rabio, or Casadea's chances of winning, it would be back into the lake of fire for all of us. Silence followed, no one seeing an argument to make. None of them were true Knights of the Fly. None of them had held rank in the choirs before the wars. As far as Cerberus was concerned, all of them were expendable. Far outside, the freighter cut through the water with purpose. They would rendezvous with Gadriel soon. He would ensure the humans were ready. By the time Cerberus returned with over 1,000 newly prepared vessels, each destined to be filled with a Knight of the Fly, it would be far too late for anyone, mortal or divine, to stop them. The devils smiled in the dim light of the cabin, as if savoring the inevitability of it. Hell had already begun to open its gates. Now it only needed bodies.